whenever you're ready. I've got the roadmap notes in front of me, I think. I'm going to make sure I get them up.
There we go. I think we're live.
Okay. Can people in the chat hear us?
Exactly. Please give us some feedback, whether you can hear us, see us, all of that stuff. We're going to sit here.
You can hear us? Okay, cool.
Nice. All right, guys.
Excellent. We do have a nice audio setup for once rather than my laptop. So I'm going to give you a brief update about what's happened in the last few days. So, the Nym team, which includes some open source contributors, people in Nym technologies, so forth and so on, we do get together every once in a while.
Apologies for that.
So we do get together every once in a while, and we've been together for the last few days. And what we're focused on is basically focused on a lot of the technical problems people have been having, fixing them, going through our bugs, but also figuring out what we're going to do in the long term. So the big focus of this event really was the roadmap. Now, the thing with the roadmap is that effectively, we have a roadmap on our website. It is very out of date. I don't think it's been updated in like a year or two at most. Definitely hasn't been updated since the Nym launch. So what we try to do in this session is we try to update both the short-term roadmap and the long-term roadmap. So I'm going to go through, we don't have 100, we're going to kind of get the actual detailed consensus, put it on the website in a few days. This will be a kind of sneak preview of where we're going for everyone else who's lucky enough to be here. That's impossible. It's like literally, sorry, we have a camera that makes literally no sense in terms of where it's positioned. So I'm just going to read from my notes. So in terms of the roadmap, so as people remember, after we launched, just kind of give you the what's going to launch in what order. It doesn't appear to a lot of people who are maybe in the community that too much is going on. And the reason why it doesn't appear that too much is going on is because we actually are doing tons of work, but that work has been mostly on the wallet and the mixed nodes and optimizing the contract that rewards mixed node operators. So people who have been running mixed nodes have seen a lot happen, but users have not seen too much happen besides Nym Connect, and Nym Connect is still pretty flaky and it does not work particularly well. Works fine for Bitcoin, not working particularly well on, say, Telegram. And the reason for that is that Telegram, just to be clear, does very cool stuff for anti-censorship, moves its IP address around a lot. And Nym currently is kind of optimized more for instant messages and like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin transactions. But when you upload a large file to Telegram, that file gets cut up into lots of little pieces, shipped over the mixnet, and then sometimes those pieces don't get retransmitted properly. So we did a big deep dive into that, and that will eventually work. We have pretty good solutions on that, but minus that, it will probably be flaky, I would say, for a few more weeks at least. We're also meeting personally some of the Telegram folks, hopefully over the weekend, at the Ton Hackathon in Prague. So if any of you happen to be in Prague, we'll be presenting the roadmap, presenting the latest developments on Nym at the Hackers Conference Parallel Polling, which is a pretty wild anarchist conference in the Czech Republic. And then we will... Really? Okay, let's go.
Can you maybe also ask the guy if he did something to the router?
Yeah, let's turn this on, and then I'll go ask the guy.
Yeah. Okay, do we just get on the Mediterranean?
See if it goes back on?
Are we automatically
we're
back on? Okay, I'm sorry. We actually were plugged into Ethernet, and the Ethernet just died for no good reason because we're in Greece, so that's what happens in Greece. So just so you know, what's been going on in the background is we've been trying to sort out the wallet issues and a lot of small issues, so it hasn't been that much visible, as much visible progress as we would like for the community. But the cool thing about this is that this has brought up a lot of thinking into the long-term game plan. So what's the long-term game plan? One of the really amazing things is that the problems that we've had with the wallet and the mixed nodes have not been to do with the mixed nodes per se, but have been to do with the validators. And one of the reasons for having these problems is while we do not run any validators, we do not control any validators, the validator set is basically controlled by, some of you guys probably have a Nym wallet, you may have noticed this. They are not running Nym per se, they're running a separate Cosmos-based token called NYX, that's NYX. So what we're hoping to do, and this is kind of one of the big goals of the next month or two, one of the first goals is that it's very important that anyone can run a validator. So we're going to hope to kick off a kind of what I would say fair launch, kind of whatever you want to put it, probably airdrop based process. We're still kind of sorting through some of the frameworks there to basically make sure that Nym has a better decentralized validator set. Along with that decentralized validator set will come a even more decentralized governance process, and what that will hopefully come more fun and engagement with Nym. So that's one big thing we're hoping to do pretty soon. Still sorting through some of the legal bits, but we have various authorizations, for example, from the Swiss government. So we're not, it's cool to do it, but there's just there's a bunch of communication going on with kind of the larger Cosmos community, and just kind of, crossing our T's and dotting our I's on a way we can make the Nym governance more decentralized, the validators open, and yes, that will involve a sort of governance token, and that the people who have been holding Nym and who've been using Nym are the ones that should get that, and we think that's a pretty cool idea. So so that will happen. There'll be a blog post about it pretty soon where Dave will go through in detail his vision for how the validators can decentralize, how you guys can, if you're tired of running a mixed node or you want to run something besides a mixed node, how you can run a validator. And this should not only help the Nym mixnet in the wallet be less buggy because the validators won't get overloaded. It should also it should make basically the life easier for wallets, easier for mixed nodes, and make our system more censorship resistant. So that's a pretty big piece of news. We have been hoping about doing this for a while. So is there questions?
Good question from Alexander Vincent.
Yeah.
He's asking whether
yes, it will be incentivized. See, right now it's not. Right. So the problem with validators right now, you're running a validator now. You are getting absolutely nothing for running a validator, and the reason is we wanted to focus on getting the mixed nodes working first because we're a mixed net. So our goal is to provide privacy via the mixed nodes. However, as the last few weeks have shown, running the mixed node properly requires a lot of validators working, and the validators only work if they're incentivized. So we have to launch the validator part of our component. And when you launch a validator component, which is decentralized permissionless, it has to be incentivized and it has to come with some governance components because maybe you want to upgrade the network and I don't want to definitely be in control of the network upgrade. The validators are the natural choke point for that. So that's what will happen. We're going to launch the validators. It will have a very standard incentivization scheme, very similar to Atom and Cosmos. And Nym is already IBC enabled. It's already like a fully functional Cosmos chain with CosmWasm. But now you're going to get all the other parts of Cosmos that we haven't been using, like votes and stuff, and kind of almost, I would say, DAO-like structures will now be enabled for Nym via the validators turning on, going permissionless, and being incentivized. And we're also hoping that everyone who has been kind of hardcore and has held Nym, despite the fact that it's a terrible bear market right now, that everyone here will get enough of the kind of NYX token to participate in all these governance decisions as well. So even if you're not running anything, the good news is you're going to get something probably for free, which we like quite a lot.
Hans is asking, hi Hans, by the way, good to see you here. What's up with Coconut and Wasm?
Yeah, so we're going to hopefully do this all at the same time. So, WebAssembly client works, a little bit less featured. I think that blog post went out today, or does it go out tomorrow?
Good question, I'm not sure.
We have, basically, WASM works. We have a pure TypeScript-based client, and that will happen relatively shortly. I hope it was announced today, might be announced Monday or tomorrow, but yeah, that's fine. Now, in terms of Coconut, so Coconut's pretty cool. It's essentially an anonymous credential system. It has a sort of zero knowledge based aspects to it, and that we the problem with Coconut, so we have Coconut working, it's been working for a while. The problem with Coconut is you need these validators to basically issue kind of, I almost think of as Chaumian blind signatures, but they're aggregate signatures. The Coconut signature scheme is what it is, to enable essentially privacy for transactions on chain and for just data transfer on chain in general. In order to do that, the validators have to be aware of Coconut and be able to sign those transactions properly. So that's something that's not obviously part of standard of Cosmos. Anyone who knows Cosmos knows that Cosmos does not support privacy by default. There are projects that do privacy on Cosmos, but they do it via like secret, via SGX, or they don't work yet. That's the only one that I think works right now is secret. Maybe I think Oasis may also work, but Oasis Fork Cosmos I think is no longer compatible with Gaia D, which is the default Cosmos client. So what Coconut will do is we'll work on the default Cosmos client. So if you don't like us, you can always run yourself on another chain. But our validators, when we depermission the validator set, we're going to enable the key signing procedure that Coconut needs. So not only do you get this nice governance functions, you get this nice extra step in the path of decentralization, you also are going to get kind of improved privacy features on chain. So right now, the Nix Cosmos chain is totally transparent, which is actually not so bad because we want to know what's going on with all the mixed nodes. Who's got Nym, who doesn't have Nym? Are they doing a good job or not? What's their IP address? What's their key if it's what's their IP address if they're a gateway? What's their key if they're a mixed node? This is all held by the blockchain. Now, in the next step, which will happen, I believe, at about basically the same time we decentralize the validators, maybe a bit before, because we might want to debug it a bit before, is that we will launch Coconut, and Coconut will basically enable privacy on chain using zero knowledge for Nym. So we think that's a pretty cool step. There's whole projects that's like all they do is zero knowledge on chain. We are also doing zero knowledge on chain. And the nice thing about our system is that the zero knowledge Coconut features that we enable, we're not aiming for like a Zcash kind of feature set. We're not trying to compete necessarily with like Monero or anything. But what we enable is we enable any essentially typed array, like JSON typed array with like ranges and then certain features, basic arithmetic, to be enabled on the Nix chain. And we'll probably debug it for a while. But I think, because it is mainnet, you can just use it. It might be a little bit buggy, and we'll tell you when it's debugged. But you should see that going live relatively shortly in October. I think we are in the final stages of that being ready to go live. And if you want to see the work done, it's in GitHub.
We have another question from Alexander. He's asking whether when the validator program started, we're going to airdrop tokens or not.
The current plan is we are hoping to airdrop tokens. Now there are the usual kind of legal constraints, which hopefully don't affect you because hopefully you're not American. So we are trying to find a way to do that without causing problems by letting the Americans invade our network, basically. So assuming those are sorted, there's various things we're testing out now. Yeah, people should get. Now that being said, if you want to run a validator, everyone can start one up, but just like it's going to work like any other Cosmos validator system, right? So we're not doing anything particularly special. Like the mixed node economic system is the first mixed node economic system ever built, and that's why it's been a bit flaky, right? Because it's pretty experimental. It's getting better and more stable over time. The validator economic system and incentives literally will be just straight Cosmos, and we're going to kind of track the Cosmos ecosystem. So the good news is most of that's already built. So that means not only should you be able to get an airdrop, but if you want to run a validator, if you know how to run a Cosmos validator, you can run a validator. And if you don't, you can stake as well and work and do governance votes like you would do in any Cosmos ecosystem project.
Global cap validators, like the number of them?
Validators under Cosmos are naturally capped in some way because essentially the system falls over when you have basically more than 100 validators. So if you do have more than 100 validators, I believe Cosmos naturally caps the system at 100. That being said, we only have like 30 now, so there's room to grow. So if you want to run a validator, there'll be some space. There was any other questions?
Well, there's a question about osmosis.
Yeah, I mean, osmosis is still a question, but nothing would be stopping someone from starting an osmosis pool. And
Also, Hans is asking about bug bounties, and I can.
yeah, so why don't you can deal with that? But I just want to say one other thing which is coming up. I'm dealing with the short term. So this is stuff that's going to happen probably, I would say, the next 1 to 2 months. Okay, so this is short term stuff. Coconut and the validator depermissioning is short term. This, and then I want to go to like the other short term thing that's happening, just so everyone knows. So a lot of people have complained to us, and we do listen, that it's a pain to get Nym tokens. So there should be a sort of Nym purchase button, thanks to our good dear friends at Biddy, who are a financial intermediary that works with Kraken, to allow people to purchase, to allow people to purchase Nym tokens. And we are a Swiss company in accordance with Swiss law. And Swiss law, I'm not going to explain the details, but it's pretty cool. So I think that it will be much easier to buy and eventually sell Nym tokens. And that's going to be rolling out in the wallet over the next month as well.
Yeah, that's incredibly cool, actually.
I mean, it's just going to help people because, like, if you you don't have to do all this crazy. We're trying to make it we're trying to make it easier to get Nym tokens, easier to not have to use Gravity Bridge, because Gravity Bridge is a total pain. And there are also, not only are we going to enable the Nym token in the wallet, so you can kind of get them from the wallet directly, we are also talking to a number of exchanges about improving their support of Nym. This may take honestly, negotiations are always slow, but I do believe that a number of exchanges will also support even automatic conversion from ERC20 into Cosmos and back and forth with some probably reasonable limits.
Which is the other major pain point.
Which is another, so we are trying to fix the pain point of I don't want to have to buy Nym off Kraken, and we're also trying to fix the pain point of I don't want to use Gravity Bridge. Those pain points, by end of the year, worst case, unless we hit some giant legal hurdle, which we don't think we should be fixed. Okay, now I think we should talk about the last question.
There are no more questions, actually.
Oh, no, there was someone.
Oh, bug bounty.
Bug bounties.
Yeah.
And then we go into long-term game plan.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So, well, bug bounty is something that we've been discussing internally for quite some time, and it is coming at some point, but there's something else coming before that, which is possibly going to be an ambassador program, which I can't talk in much more detail about yet, but stay tuned for that because it's going to be really, really interesting. And as part of that, and also as an extension of that, we'll probably also have some sort of a bug bounty program because it is very much needed. But no further details as of right now. What about the long-term plan, boss?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff going on. So let's look. Well, short term, let's look into October. So I know a lot of people are very concerned about privacy. Obviously, we've had the OFAC Tornado Cash work. Just so you know, Nym is not a quote-unquote privacy coin. We're not a mixer. We're a mixed net. So we are not affected by any of that, nor do we expect to be. That being said, we want to support privacy projects in general. So we are launching another, essentially, if anyone here is at DevCon in Bogota, or you plan to go to DevCon, we are planning on launching essentially a system with other privacy projects to make sure we have common legal analysis and common legal defense. So there was a whole bunch of projects on the phone today. In fact, you can hear people still talking in the background with some of them. So we can imagine, I would say, most of, let's say, the top 20 privacy projects will be on board with us for common legal analysis and common legal defense. And we'll publish that analysis, and we're going to do an event at the ZK Hacker House with the Manta Network, who is like a Polkadot privacy thing, and a few other projects. We'll be doing that during DevCon. So expect an announcement like early next week. If you want to hang out at DevCon, we'll have some people there. Shane, who some of you may know, will be there. A lot of other folks will be there. I'm not sure about myself because it's a really long plane trip to Colombia, but there'll be a lot of interesting Nym-based action in DevCon. So that's like really short term. I should have mentioned that first, but I forgot. And let me look at the rest of the roadmap that we have consensus on. So the way you want to think about what's going to happen once we decentralize the validators is the next obvious step is we got to get the reliability of the mixnet better. So we are working. As people may or may not know, we have a contract with Daniel Bernstein, who is one of the most high-speed cryptographers on the planet. Also, the guy that did the legal case, Code is Law. Daniel and the rest of the team should have a fast, improved, optimized version of them. So right now, for the last year, we've been working mostly on the wallet and the reward system, the crypto economics. Now, once we decentralize the validators, the next thing to do is to make that mixnet really fast and reliable. So basically, the SERBs issue should be fixed. We already have a design on the table that we have consensus on. We're 99% there, so we don't think it's going to be that hard. And there's going to be a larger change. We basically produce a kind of optimized version of the mixnet client. So everyone who's been running mixed nodes, we've been trying to understand what chip architectures you use, so we can base how to do multi-core properly, so we can get maximum speed and reliability out of the mixnet. So yeah, Nym Connect's a little bit shaky right now at best. Doesn't work all the time. That's a problem. Once we decentralize the validators, that pain point goes down, so the API calls shouldn't slow the mixnet down anymore because of many validators, so many API calls to choose from. And then the next step is that the mixnet core itself, the Sphinx packet format, and the mixed nodes will speed up. So that's going to be our focus kind of going out of November into December and January. And then I'm not sure the exact delivery of the SERBs is not in 2 weeks, but I would say in the next month or two, probably 2 months at most. And I would say the optimized crypto, I would aim at more December, January, because that involves a lot of hand-coded and ideally formally verified assembly code. We have actually been working on that in the background for the last year. It's just, this stuff takes some time. I mean, and we have the best people on the planet, like Tanya Long and Daniel Bernstein working on it, with Anya and everyone else. So,
the next question is from, I can't pronounce that. So, do we have a plan for introducing our tech into structures of international companies and corporations? So
so let's hold on that because that's the long-term game plan. There's a short-term game plan, short-term question, which is the percentage of APY. So by the way, the API thing is semi-automated, right? So, what causes the APY to go down? So right now, like assuming nothing changes, the API will eventually start going down, but currently does not because we haven't hit a fully saturated mixnet yet. So once we hit full saturation and we start seeing more traffic, then the APY goes down. Now when exactly that happens, I can't tell you because it hasn't happened yet. Otherwise, you should expect the APY to remain pleasantly high. So I think it will go down. I believe it will probably start going down maybe in November if we get, but probably definitely next year. But I think till the end of the year, it still should be pretty high because we haven't reached full saturation and we haven't hit enough users. So what causes it to go down is effectively when there's like a lot of when there's like too many mixed nodes. Now what people have seen is that the mixed node number is kind of relatively stable, and when the mixed node number is relatively stable and there's not too much usage is also stable, then the APY is kind of stable. Now when the usage goes up, there's not enough mixed nodes, that causes the APY to go up, and when there's too many mixed nodes and not enough usage, the APY eventually goes down. Now right now everything's pretty stable, so I don't see it going down immediately. I can actually, Claudia is across this room, I can ask her about the details on that one.
I was asking when gateway incentives are going to be introduced. But that
So that was what I was going to talk next. But let's hold let's hold that one because someone said do something against the centralization of the mixnet. So what is the centralized component on the mixnet? The centralized component of the mixnet is again the validator set, right? So you see all these validators. You see some nodes being overly saturated. So this is a problem. So those are the two kind of parts. One is the validator centralization, which I just said. That's the next bit we're going to fix. Expect that fixed by end of November. That's fixed through essentially depermissioning the validators, letting anyone run a validator. and that's going to happen around the same time we get Coconut off the ground. Then the next step is, well, this is kind of crazy, the saturation. Like, it doesn't make sense that Nodes Guru has like so much saturation and like some other guy doesn't. So we've been trying to help this organically. I mean, we love Nodes Guru. They've been doing a great job. We are also trying to help other smaller validators who may not be as well known as Nodes Guru get known. We are looking into algorithmic ways to increase the amount of stake on other validators. Now, I don't think we can do that for various reasons, but I do think other people will eventually deploy that. So I think I think we're going to try to like right now, staking is kind of hard, and so there's a few errors you can make, and that's maybe a whole separate call. Like, for example, you might stake on something that's oversaturated. We're going to try to make that harder and harder to do, and I think that should eventually help the decentralization of the mixnet. Now, the other centralized part of the mixnet, which we're not too happy about, is the gateways, right? So right now, it's not the gateways are centralized. Anyone can run a gateway. It's just you don't make any money from running a gateway. You don't make any Nym tokens. You basically, the people that run gateways now are people that are running services that they want to access over the mixnet. We'll get to the mass adoption part in 1 minute, but I just want to go through the whole plan. So what happens is next year, we're really going to focus on essentially getting the network to push out more and more gateways. We ideally want more gateways than mixed nodes, right? Gateways will have different characteristics. In particular, if anyone's been watching the situation in Iran, there's this really wonderful feminist revolution going on there, with Jin, Jian, Azadi, and so forth, led by the Kurdish movements and women. And they're having a lot of censorship. And a lot of you in places like, for example, China, we've noticed there's been some censorship there. It's kind of off and on. We're still trying to figure it all out. But we will announce gateway incentives. So not only if you I don't want to mix node, maybe you don't like validators, but you want to run a gateway. We will have a gateway incentive program so that people that run gateways get paid, and the people in gateways will work on anti-censorship features. So this is to prevent people from being stopped from using the mixnet. So what the goal is by, like, say, mid next year, that the gateway should work really well in places like China and Iran, or even the U.S. So, the election might go crazy, and the U.S. might turn on censorship. So we will try to get more and more and better anti-censorship features. That's going to be a major focus of next year. Basically increasing mixnet reliability, increasing the mixnet speed, increasing the gateways, both the number of gateways and the abilities of gateways to be financially sustainable, more decentralized, and effectively beat internet censorship. And that kind of keels in. I want to mention this pings into the next thing, which is we have this Nym Innovation Fund. We are getting ready to launch it, and we will be looking for proposals for funding for people working on these topics. Or startups working on these topics, startups that need funding, nonprofits that need funding, academics that need funding. So our first round of grants, we funded people who are working on, for example, does Nym even work? A fair comparison of Nym versus Tor. That's one of the big grants we did to EPFL. Hans and friends are working on the Nym box, a sort of router-based version of Nym. So you can put in your internet router. So we're going to be looking for another round of grants with more of a focus on how is it easy to make it easy, not just to run Nym, but how to make it easier to run gateways, how to make it easy to work on anti-censorship, how we can make the network more reliable, speed it up, and ideally some killer apps that you guys have that could use some privacy. So we should expect the Innovation Fund, which is currently, it's an email address, and we have helped a few startups get funding, but we're expecting to be much more systematic about it. So again, Shipyard is working on the network itself, and then for kind of larger projects or academic grants, they typically will not go through Shipyard, they will go through the Nym Innovation Fund. So this is more like large for-profit projects or small for-profit projects. You have a startup, and people that want to work on, academics that for whatever reason, need to fund a PhD student to work on Nym. And if you really want to work on Nym, by the way, we do fund PhD scholarships. Just get in touch. We are looking to fund bright young people to work on privacy, and we'll keep doing that. So that's the that's the midterm plan. So again, the short-term plan: work on the validators, Serbs, Coconut, midterm plan, gateways, decentralize the gateways, get the network more reliable, more high speed, and censorship resistant. Now we have a longer term plan, which I think the question over mass adoption was aimed at.
Actually, there's a question about, I think a lot of people ask this in general all the time. So can you say something about our mobile plans? Also, when Tinder and Nym Connect, that's also an important question.
Well, someone, if you want to run it, we're not going to stop you. That would be, there's all sorts of really interesting service providers one can run. In terms of Nym itself, the way you want to think about it, can you just repeat the question?
Yeah. So what about mobile?
Mobile. Well, yeah. I mean, that's what we were supposed to announce today. Like, in order for stuff to work on mobile properly with Nym, you essentially need a mobile client. The first step of that has been accomplished, which is releasing the WebAssembly-based client, which is a modification. So you can take Rust from Rust to WebAssembly, play around with a bit, add some TypeScript, and you have things that can theoretically work essentially, and can work even today, as a Nym kind of SDK that you can then use on Android and iOS. Now, to actually get the full wallet experience and the full Wallet Connect experience on mobile, you have to get into the App Store, right? So that's the next phase, or at least F-Droid, at least like the free software, or at least put an APK somewhere on your website. Various ways of doing it. Most people do like app stores. And the second phase, in order to get into the App Store, you can't just give them like WebAssembly client. You have to essentially, make it work reasonable UX. So that would require, under iOS, some work with Swift, some more work for Android. But we do believe, we have the hard part done, which is getting the client libraries working, and the UX. I don't want to give a due date for that because we probably we're currently still trying to hire more people to do this. So if you are a mobile developer, please get in touch, because we are looking for mobile web dev front ends. Mobile dev people with front end experience, so you can add that kind of layer of Swift and that UX on, for example, Nym Connect iPhone client. But that's that. I don't want to give a deadline to you because we're still trying to resource the people. If you don't want to work for us, we just want to do it, please start. And we're also, Nym is happy to give grants for this as well. The hard work of, can I get my Nym theoretically working with a bit of craziness and not a very good user experience on my phone, that should work today, and we should have a blog post about that today or tomorrow.
I think it's worth talking about WebAssembly versus SOX 5. Like, why is it?
So SOX 5 is not a particularly great thing in mobile environments. So what SOX 5 is, it's a kind of essentially unauthenticated thing where, like, you stream your network traffic inside your computer, but not outside, to another kind of port. And that port, and SOX 5 just is a way to just, the app doesn't know it's happening, it just kind of happens. On some level, it's kind of dumb. It's like just a big fire hose of packets being streamed to another port inside your computer. But mobile phones are not that dumb. So mobile phones typically do not enable SOX 5 very easily, and apps don't enable SOX 5 really easily. And even in WebAssembly, when you're dealing with WebAssembly, you have all the stuff with same origin policy and certificates, and it gets pretty complicated. So typically with phone-based apps, you have to do a more close integration with them. So what does that mean? That means that, rather than just shove all your packets from one port to another port, you basically have to kind of work with the event-based scheduling system to sort of say, hey, let me see, has someone sent me any more Nym, any more Sphinx? Reassemble those. You have to kind of poll. So it's a much more kind of message-based interaction framework that requires a bit more awareness by the app. And we know to do that, our CTO Dave, I think he built mobile clients for various large folks like the BBC for a very long time. So it's not like we don't know how to do it. It's just a little bit more work, and it's a little bit harder for mobile people to integrate. That being said, if you can even today, if someone wanted to make a mobile Tinder today for Nym, pretty easy. You would just take the Tinder code base. Probably it's all done in React or TypeScript. It's done in some JavaScript thing with a bit of Swift and stuff on the side. you would literally run our WebAssembly on the phone, and then you would modify the Tinder code to call the WebAssembly client. So you say, I have a new message. Here's the message, and they send it. You send it the WebAssembly client, and sends that to the modified Tinder code. But the difference in this case that you do have to some extent, modify the Tinder code, which you don't have to do with SOX 5. So, but I think that is the future of Nym, and I think we'll be pretty successful on that, because with the hard part, which is moving Nym to the mobile, is done. It's more like, what apps do people want to build? So if someone wanted to build Tinder on top of Nym or anything else on top of Nym, again, Innovation Fund and Shipyard are your kind of go-to points.
A question, I think this is a pretty interesting one. Are we planning to do anything with wallets?
Yes. There is a lot of people that want to work with us on wallets. So of course we have our wallet, which is kind of like a mixed net node control panel. We are, as soon as the Cosmos stuff launches properly, we are hoping to get better Kepler support, so forth and so on. But there are a lot of teams, particularly people working in Monero. I think a lot of people will be there in Prague next week, but also other privacy projects, Liquid, ran by Blockstream, for example, Zcash, and we are hoping to have native integrations with a few of those wallets, essentially by end of the year. And furthermore, we were finally seeing some Ethereum people pick up Nym. That was kind of interesting. So you're seeing folks like ChainSafe, not really a wallet, but use Nym to kind of figure out, can we hide a validator, an Ethereum 2 validator? Because obviously, if your validator gets DDoS, you're kind of screwed in Ethereum 2. So I think we'll see a few more wallet integrations pop out. Wallets are important, and the problem with wallets is there's so many to choose from. But I think a few of the bigger ones will work on at least one, and probably more on native Nym integrations. We do expect to have most of the major ecosystem wallets hit by end of the year, so you're going to see a lot more of these kind of partnership stuff going on. But what the partnerships really usually mean is that they are going to they will plan, or they already have Nym integrated into their wallet. So I think there was a really good question, which I want to get back to, about the long-term plan. How do you get mass adoption? So we do have a plan there, and we were working on it most of the day. One of the big problems is the what's like the killer use case for Nym, right? And so there's essentially, I would say, there's a two-step tango there. So assume that everything we say we can get done by mid next year: anti-censorship, gateways, validators, all those parts are decentralized. We've done enough wallet integrations. We feel wallets work. What would be the next thing to get working? Who is it that needs privacy, and who needs it? Who needs a mixnet? Now, one group of people that do need it, even though it doesn't work there right now, would be people in countries which are censored but want to access cryptocurrency and access news. So we can imagine a kind of nice use case. We have kind of an integration between things people already use, like Telegram, Twitter, and wallets. If this was bundled together, these are all kind of message-based protocols. Because they're message-based protocols, reasonably easy to get working with Nym, don't require massive high speed, although you do have the problem of the big files we're currently working on, like image uploads and video uploads and audio uploads, like when people talking to their phone and stuff. That's going to require a bit of work. But that would be one thing, which is, I think, a good midpoint killer app. I do want to have that out and in the hands of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people by end of the year. And then the real kind of killer use case on adoption is probably if Nym got really, really fast. There's an interesting hypothetical question. This is what Chelsea Manning is working on. Could we get fast enough that we could actually run Nym as essentially a VPN replacement without a trusted third party, and with a vaguely comparable speeds at a lower cost point? I do think that might be possible. So that's kind of like the long-term mass adoption goal. It's very easy to get things like Telegram and Twitter and cryptocurrency or Nym, getting things like streaming video, working on Nym, or websites is harder. We don't think it's impossible. We at least want to go all the way there. Just may require at some point a mixed nodes that essentially purchase special hardware or maybe have certain chipsets that allow us to do these crypto operations very fast. But that doesn't sound crazy. Proof of work looked pretty crazy when Bitcoin first launched, and the whole ASIC industry arose to basically make solving these hash puzzles quicker and quicker. Why don't we take that same ingenuity? All these ASIC makers are all losing their jobs because people are switching off for proof of work. Let's have those people focus on privacy. So we can imagine that, rather than just like solving a hash puzzle, you're doing like a super fast Diffie-Hellman to push out that Sphinx packet. We think that's a great goal, and we see that as the kind of what we call year or 2 year mass adoption plan. And that's a pretty big plan because, cryptocurrency is a pretty big market. I think it's not, though it's still a minority of people on the globe, but the majority of people on the globe need something like Netflix, just like, need a VPN to access something like Netflix, or to deal with the government like in Iran where the government shuts off their internet access. So we're going to work on that. That's the kind of midterm plan. Long-term plan is we are having a lot of B2B interest from various people that want to use Nym. I guess this is going to go public in 2 or 3 days, so we can say it. But it got revealed that there was a lot of mass surveillance going on by Team Simru of what they claim. I don't think it's true, but they were claiming they could view 90% of the world's internet traffic. That's pretty terrible. That freaked out a lot of people, even in the United States. So there will be some motion to use things like Nym for governments. That was originally our use case. So the U.S. said it's like, it's terrible. Why can't all government services should be traffic analysis resistant? There's also interest. We'll see how the South American elections go. There's a lot of interest from South America in Nym because South Americans need privacy so their government doesn't get overthrown by the United States on a regular basis. If you're in Cosmoverse, you can talk to Daniel. Daniel used to lead the effort in South America to all the South American governments off of Microsoft onto free software. So I'm not personally like a big fan of governments, obviously. An anarchist. That being said, I do support anti-imperialism. I don't support bigger governments abusing smaller governments. I do support sovereignty, both of individuals and of people collectively. So in this case, are you sovereign if you're using Microsoft and your connection is backdoored by Cisco? No, you're not. So those smaller countries that do want to get out of this kind of mass surveillance monopoly are actively contacting Nym. We also have, the usual people are in touch with Nym. For example, our new head of BizDev, Andrei Sergentov, he had some initial meetings with a quite large, I think, healthcare company, Merck. So we're getting a lot of inbound interest in Nym. That being said, the way we view it is there's not, do we chat, for example, with Ben Laurie from Google on a regular basis? Yes, we do. We're interested in what they think. We're interested in a lot of people. We chat with everyone, essentially. But our focus for the next 2 years will essentially be trying to build software that normal people can use. People like you and me that just want to turn on a VPN and not have to worry about mass surveillance. That's kind of like our first step. Now, after that, there's a lot of institutions that want it. So once you try, we will focus those institutions, but we kind of want to first kind of serve essentially the ordinary person rather than a few big companies. So that's more in the long-term plan, and we're gonna work with the IETF and other standards bodies to make sure that we can support all those use cases.
We have 2 good questions. I think this is a good one. So let's address the bottlenecks that keep us from providing speeds like a VPN would.
Yeah. So the bottleneck essentially is we have too many Diffie-Hellman operations. So for those who know cryptography, I have how Diffie-Hellman works is there's a key. Key is like a G. You take a G to like an exponent, like an A. There's another key, like it's a G to the B, and you kind of exchange Diffie-Hellman key exchanges. You want to establish a secret that only you two know, so you can authenticate all your messages and then encrypt them. And then so you would kind of do a G to the A to the B. And that's pretty cool because if you know the G and you have the G to A to the B, then all works. If you're the enemy, you intercept only the G to A, you don't know what the hell's going on. That's great. Now, in order to get so the main holdup is what I just described, which is what you would think of as a process of exponentiation. So, like a 3 to the 2, the 2 is the exponent, 3 to the 2 is 3 times 3 is 9, 3 to the 3. So you keep there's 9 times 3, 27, and you can imagine this gets really big, right? So that is the main holdup we have. The main holdup we have is the number of Diffie-Hellmans in the Sphinx packet, and we are not using any optimized crypto. We're just using essentially default Rust libraries. There are other minor holdups. So when you have a Sphinx packet, you also have a payload. Our payloads are currently only 1K. That's way too small. Like a lot of things are like bigger than 1K. So you're like, why does Telegram messages work and image not work? Well, it's really simple. Telegram message can fit in that 1K. Just a little bit of text going to Telegram, coming back. A big image doesn't fit in that 1K, so it's spread out among tons of packets. So another thing we have to do is increase the packet size. When you increase the packet size, you also have to remember you have to encrypt that packet. You have to encrypt the payload. And that uses something called a wide block cipher. So wide block ciphers are understudied. They're essentially like a crazy AES is a block cipher. But essentially it chops your data into little blocks and it kind of runs the cipher in each block. A wide cipher basically kind of runs the cipher on the whole variable length input, which is pretty big in our case. So I would say 90% of the slowdown is Diffie-Hellmans, and there's an additional 10% slowdown on the payloads. So we will have those things we are hoping to optimize. There's 2 ways to optimize them. We're going to do them in order. The first optimization is to optimize them on the level of software. A lot of you guys have amazing computers. We have a vague idea of what people are running now. You may have 8 cores. So right now the mixed node may only be using 1 of those cores. So you get an 8x speed up just by using all your cores properly. So that's one of the big upgrades we're going to have. The second upgrade is you have a chipset. Everyone has a slightly different chipset. You may have, I might have an Intel chipset. You may have another ARM chipset. Regardless, a lot of those chipsets have special operations to speed up crypto. We are not using any of those right now. So the next level is to basically enable the usage of chipsets that you guys already have. You don't have to buy anything new. We're just using your hardware to the max. And that's what we hope comes out in December. Now, in the long run, yeah, you can speed this stuff up ridiculously if you get customized hardware built, but we think that's more like a year down the road rather than next week or next month. So I would say realistically, we're gonna get better support for mixed nodes in terms of the basics, reliability and speed in about a month or 2. And then by end of the year, we hope to have some actual high-speed crypto optimizations. I'm not leading that. That's led by Daniel Bernstein and Anya Petrovska as part of, weirdly enough, a European Commission grant and contract and looking at how to speed this stuff up, because European governments will also like to hide their data from their enemies. So we'll have that working pretty soon.
Our beloved cameraman tells us that the battery runs kind of low.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Well, actually, I think this is, unless you have anything else to say about the roadmap, I think this is worth addressing. We talk about this sometimes internally. So what about malicious purposes, for
Yeah, I mean, so the way the internet works, it is legal to make anonymizing software. VPNs are legal, Tor is legal. And we in a network is an intermediary. It doesn't do things; it just carries information. So I personally believe, and I think the law generally falls on my side on this, even that censorship is a bad thing. If you start censoring VPNs, you start censoring internet connections. You start. Next thing you know, you're censoring phone calls, and you're dealing with like the Stasi, right? And so no one. Even the Americans are kind of not particularly interested in doing that. So, we at Nym, we don't know what people use the network for. We encourage certain uses. We don't encourage illegal uses, obviously. But we do encourage, we're trying to get people to run Telegram on it, get people to use Keybase on it. But if someone runs something particularly crazy, we're just a network. We don't know what it is. And that's just how it is. It's not it's just technically not, it's probably technically not possible to stop a certain service. And that's, I think, an important point in terms of where the internet's headed today. There's a lot of people calling for increased internet censorship. But again, internet censorship is kind of against the architecture of the internet. So we typically do not support it and don't plan to. Okay, so there's a bunch of questions. Let's get some questions from... Yeah, we don't plan for people to overclock mixed nodes. You could, but we're not going to ask you to. But if you want to, it'd be interesting if someone does. We'd be super interested in seeing if that helps. Okay, we're going to have to close in a second, but I just want to finish what's going on. A lot of questions. What's the best video card you've encountered in the logs? That's actually a good question. I don't have
a
log.
We don't really need GPUs though.
We don't need no. In the future, you may need specialized hardware. Right now, if you have a special video card, it's not helping them. What helps them is your CPU and the number of cores you have. So I have 8 cores. That's better than having 4 cores, which is better than having 1 core.
Also the network connection.
And yeah, the network connection will be important in the future. So if you're running Nym on a gigabit line, that's going to be better than running it on your Raspberry Pi on a Wi-Fi connection. But right now, because there's not so much traffic running through the network, the holdup has not been bandwidth. The holdup has been effectively essentially the number of cores and us not taking advantage of your chipset. So don't worry, you don't need to buy anything soon. Maybe next year we'll ask you to buy something.
I think that was it in terms of questions.
Yeah, the client's CPU hungry because of Diffie-Hellman operations. And there's a whole lot of them. So every packet gets like 5 Diffie-Hellman operation, which is pretty crazy. So there's a lot of packets, a lot of Diffie-Hellmans. That's why it's CPU hungry. Okay, cool. So we're about to. What about Nym Cloud Online Service? Yes. That's what I was saying earlier. We do not want to centralize the service ourselves, so we are not running that, but we do plan to produce the code so that other people can run it, because honestly, it is too hard to stake right now. We're seeing a lot of people making mistakes staking. We're seeing people overstake the saturated things. It's not even good for the people you stake to, because they might as well just not stake to it, right? Everyone gets a bit less rewards. Everyone's confused. So we have produced a lot of guidance verbally, but we haven't produced a web interface to make it easier for people. We will not do that, but we will produce infrastructure that lets other people do that. So I do think that we'll have a good web interface. I'm not going to personally build it, but I would say it's a great grant topic, and we'll probably get some grants out on it ASAP, kind of in October. Because again, the Nym Innovation Fund, that launches on some of the first things we're looking for, and I do know that there are already people interested in running that. So, and assuming you give them the money in October, it's a web interface, guys, not that hard to build. I think people will have stuff done by end of year. Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll close up. The Nym team, I'm sorry, we're really exhausted. We've had a week together trying to sort things out. A lot of so you'll see some bug fixes very shortly. But we do have a good clear plan. You can say, if you don't think this is a good plan, you say, I want to launch gateways first because the situation in Iran is so crazy that we need gateways that resist censorship before we need to decentralize the validators. Just tell us. Like, we can still modify the game plan. And the game plan is open. If someone wants to produce censorship-resistant gateways and complies and gets a grant for it, has their own money, and just uploads that, we will launch that tomorrow. If someone can get V1 Ray or Shadow Socks working in China, that'd be great. That being said, if that does not happen, we will our game plan will be published, and it will go in the order which I told you. You're the first people to know. Which again, decentralize the validators, decentralize the gateways, put in anti-censorship features, and speed the living daylights out of the mixnet. So we can get mass adoption, and I'm pretty sure we can.
I think that was it in terms of questions.
Okay, cool. I hope it's been fun. You have any? It's been great. I'm really always great to see the team in person.
This is the first time I'm meeting the man.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. We've been doing
person.
telecons for like a year, but it's great to finally meet you. This man is an amazing swimmer, by the way. We discovered he can jump off pirate boats and swim in the ocean.
Exactly.
I am not an amazing swimmer, but I am really enjoying hanging out with the whole team. The man with the best pseudonym and the whole Nym team, pseudonym, and we will have a lot of cool programs launch. And the basic thing is, like, I think a lot of people, we've just really been focused on mixed nodes. We have gateways, we need more apps, and we have validators. All that stuff is coming along and will be launched shortly. So there's going to be a whole new smorgasbord of ways to get involved and get your hands on Nym tokens pretty shortly.
Now, if anything that you wanted to hear about was not addressed during this roadmap update, then make sure to let us know in any of our channels, and we're going to look into it and share in our written versions soon enough, right?
Yeah. And again, I'm going to do another version of this at Prague, at Hackers Conference Parallel Polling, and we'll keep pushing out the roadmap. And we do apologize. We just got so busy with the mixed nodes and everything that we didn't have time to update the roadmap on the website for like a year. But we do have an internal one we update, and now we're getting consensus on the next 2-year plan. So, but again, you got to also be flexible. As even CZ from Binance said, agility and flexibility is the key to success. So we are open to being flexible, but this is what our current thinking is.
That's a good way to end it.
Okay, cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, many thanks for joining, and see you next Friday on the regular community call with no live stream. At least not for now. Maybe at some point.
We'll do more. There'll be a lot more. Yeah. Rock and roll, everyone. Take care.
It's been fun. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Oh, good.